Welcome to Stay Sparked. We are three longtime friends here to share inspiration with you, aim to light you up. I'm Betsy.
I'm Halcyon.
And I'm Janus.
On today's episode, our topic was Ask Me Anything.
We got to dig into some conversations to get to know each other better.
Asking questions about our childhoods and our beliefs and how that shaped us to become the people we are today.
Enjoy the episode. Hello, friends out there. We are so grateful to get to be here with you for another episode of Stay Sparked. And we always love starting with gratitude. So, Halcyon, would you like to start us off? What are you grateful for today?
I am feeling grateful for warm oceans. Got to bob in the sea recently, and it just felt so good. So grateful for the ocean.
Tis the season for swimming.
Indeed. So my gratitude for today, for the last several days, has been finally got my hands on the Power Affirmation deck and the inspiration cards from my good friend BETSY FINKLEHOO, and they are a fantastic way to start my day, get some good self-talk in, like my first thoughts of the day. It's making a difference. So appreciate it. Thanks, BETSY.
Woo, I'm so happy. Well, that's going to be my gratitude then. I had a different gratitude, but now that is just, I'm so grateful that you have these cards and that you've been using them. That's what they're intended for. So beautiful. Oh, my heart feels happy. Awesome, you guys. Well, we are really excited to have a unique conversation today. We appreciate all of you out there listening for over 60 episodes now. This has been kind of an experiment along the way, and we're going to continue with the evolution of this creative, inspiring conversation. And today we decided that we want to get to know each other a little more fully and allow you guys out there to get to know us a little more fully by having a conversation that is lovingly termed Ask Me Anything. And so we are going to see what kind of questions pop up. We haven't shared with each other at all what questions that we want to know about each other. But we're going to dig in and we're going to just see what kind of sparks start coming alive in a conversation of Ask Me Anything. And so I'm going to start us off. This is one that I have been curious for some time, and let's see if there's some insight that might come. This one's for you, Halcyon. So if anyone out there knows John Halcyon and you follow him and you have been privy to his magic, which many people have, you know that he loves pink. He has pink hair. I'm looking at his video right now. There's a pink wall, pink bedspread, pink art, pink light. He has a whole camp called Pink Heart, pink, 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 pink parade, all the things pink. And so my curiosity really comes from, where was the onset of the pink path? What really started you off in this sort of what seems like an obsession with this color? And so I'd love to, get to know a little more around where the pink started.
Love it. I also have a pink RV, and all the tile in my bathrooms is stained pink because of all that pink hair dye.
Amazing.
It began about a little over 20 years ago at Burning Man. I made one year, I made a bunch of outfits that were baby blue and pink, and combining those two, just kind of exploring with aspects of sexuality and gender roles. And I found myself really drawn to just pink, pink, pink. And so I started wearing pink outfits at the burn and really just felt like lit up, and it kind of felt a little edgy. And then the next year I dyed my hair pink at the burn. And initially it was a pushing gender roles. 20 plus years ago, a guy wearing a pink shirt was, people would suspect that he must be gay. And so I really enjoyed being someone who identifies as straight, putting a presentation in the world that was questionable and forcing people to kind of question. You can't judge a book by its color. And then it kind of grew, and I became more identified with it. and I started to think of pink as having all the love energy of red without any of the aggression, and that we're all pink on the inside. So it just became, and plus just like kids and older people, everyone just feels so comfortable around the color pink, and it's kind of fun. So, and now it's easy to shop because I can go, do you have this in a neutral color or pink? And then if they don't, I can't buy it.
Nice. I love that. It has definitely been beautiful to witness you claiming the frequency of color of pink. So beautiful. I love hearing that. Thank you so much for sharing a little
Thanks.
backstory. It reminds me of one thing I want to share is I know someone who goes by Mr. Pink. I should connect you guys. And what his thing is he'll go to all kinds of events and festivals and gatherings, and he paints himself totally pink, hair and everything, like totally pink. And I was talking to him one day, and he shared with me that he tried out different colors and he got different responses depending on the color that he was painting himself. And
Hmm,
he landed on pink and became Mr. Pink because the pink really was the thing that brought connection. He said people opened up to him more. It felt safer. It was more playful. It was lighter. Like when he painted himself red, people thought he was scary and they were more averse to him. Same with some of the darker black colors and that sort of thing. And so we do respond to colors. There's a
totally.
frequency. Mhm.
Fascinating. I wonder if we met each other, would we become instant friends or would we fight?
The
Just
puddle is
simply
probably
based on the visceral, like somebody else is pink. It's like no, it's like be like Highlander. It's like there can be only one.
Exactly.
uh-huh.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, that actually leads me into my question. Betsy, do you believe in free will?
Ooh.
Because I'm inspired by the Mr. Pink thing, how people just respond to them based on color. It's almost like it kind of bypasses your conscious awareness and just hits you right with like, oh, I'm just triggering. So, do you believe in free will, Betsy Finklehoo?
Ooh. Ooh. Well, my initial response is, of course. I feel one of my affirmations, as you know, affirmations are a huge part of my life and daily. One of the ones that I keep coming back to is my will connected to divine will in service to a better world, in service to the planet, in service to balance, harmony, wholeness. And so I really practice and connect to that balance of my own will, connecting to my solar plexus. What are the actions that I'm going to take today that come from my sense of self, that come from like that grounded connection to my own personal will in relationship to something much bigger than what I can even see, right? In relation to the frequencies around me, right? The frequency of pink, for example. How do I respond to it from my own sense of self? I guess
Hmm,
Mhm.
that's kind of my
Yeah,
answer.
solid answer. Solid answer.
I love it.
So, yeah,
Good question.
This is
welcome.
fun. We're all over the place. Okay, so I want to hear this from both of you guys, but I'm really curious. Um, would you describe the kind of person you were in high school, and were you sexually active at the time?
Ooh.
Betsy,
Uh,
you go first.
Describe who I was in high school?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, well, maybe some of my high school friends are listening, and hopefully this is accurate
Mhm.
because you know how it is when you're like in the experience. I would say I was the type of person I was exploring different personas and trying on different ways of being. I had a lot of sort of quote unquote preppy friends for a while, and that felt really good to me. But then I also went into the grunge realm also, where, I was wearing the flannel and the, t-shirt, the concert t-shirts. My sisters were really grunge, and so I kind of like wanted to be like them. And so I tried that on, and I smoked a lot of pot when I was young in high school and everything. And then I also kind of like went into like the raver category, which was kind of fun to get to explore in my teenage years. But then I also kind of like made friends with some of the, like I said, the popular kids. I like, was voted for homecoming queen, and so I like kind of like played in that realm. I would say I like today, one of the things that I really valued was being friends with all the different types of people. I was not in one particular clique or group. I really love getting to be friends with many different circles. So that's kind of broad brushstroke. Sexually active, yes, I definitely was. It was exploration of my own coming into my femininity and my own sexuality. I've reflected quite a bit on that part of my life, that time in my life, and I have actually had some pretty significant insights around how society imprinted some of my thoughts around sex, which is very unfortunate. I look back and I see the movies that I was watching at that age, and many of us were watching, and they're like teenager kind of movies that portrayed sex to be, infused with manipulation and betrayal and rape and all of these dark things that come along with it. Very rare were there movies that would portray like healthy sex. Healthy romance, of course, there's all these romance movies, but when it came down to like the getting down and dirty, it was always pretty dark. So that's really kind of not cool. I'm glad that I could see it now. And I also feel like at that time in my life, I also got a chance to connect with different people that were some people that were like very sexually active and some people that were just virgins all the way through. And so that was really a powerful kind of reflection for me and looking at where did I fit in. I had a boyfriend for 2.5 years, my high school sweetheart. And so we got to really be in our exploration of discovering our sexuality together, which I'm so grateful for. We learned so much together during that time. And so, yeah, a little insight into the young teenage version of Betsy.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Cool.
it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing,
Thanks.
Betsy. Me, I can do best. I'll keep it short. I was in school. I was pretty popular. I was always popular because I was funny, and I was voted as class clown my senior year. So, and I was also into athletics, focusing on basketball once I got to high school. So, and our team was pretty good. So if you were like on the, it was the best basketball team we had in like 27 years in the school. So, so we're, everybody was like, we were very popular as a result, and sports are just popular in general. So that combined with being the class clown, I had a lot of friends. So, although being one of the very few non-white students in a student body, it's a pretty small school, maybe 700-800 students total. And I was one of maybe certainly less than 10 non-white students there. So, but overall, it was pretty good. And that also, it was a rural, community. So, if I had dated anybody from my school, it might have, looking back on it, it might have been a bit of a scandal, just because that's not the kind of thing that a proper girl would do. It's, date somebody like me.
Wow.
So there was that. And plus, I was also a little shy when it came to stuff like that. See, my first kiss, I was 15. First like French kiss was 15, and I was just like shocked that it happened in the moment. I didn't lose my virginity. I almost made it out of high school before I lost my virginity. I think I finally lost my virginity in April of my senior year. So I almost graduated high school without that. So I've made out a few times, never with a girl from my school. Oh, once with a girl from my school. Always girls from different schools. So that was interesting to kind of think back on.
Wow.
So yeah, it wasn't for lack of want to, or is there any lack of effort. That's just how it shook out. So So yeah, that was my high school experience in those two realms. Memorable, fun overall, and yeah, thankfully not a lot in the way of regrets.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my virginity on May, my senior year, on prom night. So I feel you. Yeah.
Classic. So
Yeah,
beautiful.
exactly.
Yeah, I unfortunately was like many young women at the time. My first time was not consensual. And so that's
Mm.
really an unfortunate thing that happens far too often in our culture. And I have done a lot of work around it and have come to some very powerful healing places within myself and have gotten to connect with many other women who have experienced that. I think there's a pretty high number, unfortunately. So hopefully that's changing. Um, but I
Mm.
was part of that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I feel that that is changing, and a lot of it is starting with the awareness that we have to raise our boys better.
yeah.
And I really feel like that does seem to be happening. Not nearly as widespread as it should be, perhaps, but I do see a lot more of that now than ever, frankly. Um, the awareness that we have to teach and raise our boys better. So with that will hopefully, you know, translate through all the way to how boys interact with girls um, as well. So we
Yeah, I
shall.
think what it comes down to, what I see is big part, is healthy conversations from parents to children around sexuality. To be able to have a conversation as an adult with a young person as they're coming into their sexuality and to know how to inform children or preteens, teenagers around, emotional connection, responsibility, the physical parts of, healthy, staying healthy, safe sex, those sorts of things. And I remember in, my teenage years, we just watched a video in high school that was basically, promoting abstinence. It's like, didn't teach us anything really, except that sex was bad, and then my parents didn't really know how to talk to me about sex because their parents didn't really talk to them about sex. And so there's a lot of just limited education from my experience. And so I feel like the more parents that are willing to lean into those kinds of conversations and also ask for help from other adults or other professionals on how to speak to children. I actually have a friend, Erin Delaney. She teaches people how to talk to their teenagers and preteens to have healthy sex conversations. It's so powerful, so important. If that's, one thing that parents can do, that can make such a huge difference.
Indeed.
I wasn't in a like relationship that was sexually active until after graduating from college, and I look back now and see how much of my sexuality was expressed in relationships with people who were really struggling with self-esteem, and were engaging in sex because they wanted to feel better, and it's been interesting looking back at how many consensual sexual experiences I've had that were not fully healthy. That if I look back and go, that probably was not the best thing for that person, probably not for me either, but that we were seeking things that because of our ignorance, and our lack of self-awareness, we were uh, we you know seeking, reaching, and I look back and with some regret, of if I wish I would have known better and maybe treated people better, not knowing that they were saying yes to things that maybe they didn't really want.
Mm, so powerful. Well, that sparks a question that I have for all of us. If you could go back and whisper something in the ear of your 17-year-old self, what would that message be? What would you want to tell your 17-year-old self?
I think I would say the world that you are going to live in is totally different than the world you live in now, and that you have no idea the things that are going to excite you, the person you're going to be, the identity you're going to grow into, and that so to be not be too attached to what you see as scary or what you see as difficult, and just to kind of hold on and be open to possibilities that the current reality doesn't even give you hints of yet.
Well,
Oh.
wise words to your teenage self. I would probably say something along the lines of that you are a good person now. You are going to love the person you are becoming, that you will become. And don't drink alcohol ever,
Mm.
ever.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I'd probably sum it up with that.
that's a good one. I probably would say something similar to like just
Yeah.
don't.
What about you, Betsy?
I think I would say invest in Google, Amazon, Tesla.
Yeah.
Put some money there, babe.
Yeah.
It made me think about
The first,
the tech that was happening when we were that age. But yeah, I think I would also say something along the lines of just because everyone else is drinking alcohol doesn't mean that you have to. I would also say something along the lines of start studying what mindfulness is. I think that would have
Mm,
been a very different path if I would have discovered what mindfulness is when I was 17. And then I think I would also let her know, hey, you're much more powerful than you give yourself credit for. You know, back in those days, I
mm.
had no idea. I just was, you know, naive. And so, and I think I would probably also just give myself little reminders to be kind, be even kinder. There are certain moments in my teenage years where I could have been a lot more kind to my dad. He was going through a lot, and I just was, you know, 17-year-olds kind of get wrapped up in their world, and it's like all about me. And it's like I had no idea that he was going through so much at that time, and I just was a little brat sometimes. So I would say, hey, Betsy, you can be kind. I think that would make a really big difference. Hmm.
yeah.
Great advice. Okay, follow-up question. Do you currently feel like a grown up? And what age do you feel like inside?
Good one, especially as I'm about to be in my birthday. My birthday's next week.
That's right.
7/7. So I've been in a lot of contemplation around this actually. So I definitely feel like a kid inside. I'm so grateful that I still have the capacity to play with myself. You know, I look at little kids on the beach and they can just like throw rocks and dig in the sand and be totally entertained and play. And I'm the same way. And I'm so glad that I have that inner child that is expressed. And I'm happy to twirl. It's really easy for me to get into a place of just like being that free spirit of childlike innocence. And I also do feel I feel decently accomplished as the adult version of myself. I feel really grateful of this age that I'm in. I am about to turn 42, and I feel 42 feels young to me. I feel grateful that I feel healthy, I feel strong, I feel vibrant. I feel like when I turned 38, I said, okay, you know what? I am just going to keep getting healthier and more radiant and more beautiful as I age. And I have, over the past years, I feel like I have developed some really healthy practices that I feel stronger than ever. I feel more integrated in my sense of self. And um, I'm definitely not over the hill.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. Um, yeah, I do feel like a grown up. I want to also kind of, although I also want to warn people, like don't grow up. You know, it's a trap. I want to tell kids when I see them, like, don't do it, don't do it, don't fall for it. But yes, I feel grown up in the good ways, and all the good ways, and having a fairly newborn son. He's almost 8 months. I'm really looking forward to, I'm enjoying the time now for sure. And I'm also looking forward to when he's like a little boy, like running around being a boy. I'm really looking forward to playtime with him and, you know, exploring, running around in the woods like Calvin and Hobbes and just getting in all sorts of trouble and walking over like tree bridges over like creeks and things like that and just being around and playing. I'm really that's gonna really I can feel now that that's going to really reactivate the kid in me, and we're gonna really have a lot of fun together. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
How about you,
I've
Halcyon?
been, I so I'm just turned 53, and there are certainly times that I feel and acknowledge that I'm a grown up. It's, post 50 is now I have a mortgage now. I feel like finally in a mature grown up relationship. So I'm more grown up than I've ever been, but really like I'm often in my head, if I don't think about it, I'm like 24 and I'll be in a room of people and there's a part of me that just considers myself a kid who's just out of college and figuring things out. And sometimes I have to be like, dude, you have way more experience than anybody in this room. Why don't you say something? Like, oh yeah, right. I forget. Yeah. So I definitely go back and forth of feeling, damn, I'm old and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid. Yeah.
Mm,
I
perception.
I want to take a still of the video right now, the shot of Halcyon with his pink hair and his sleeveless shirt and his pink room, and I'm more grown up than I've ever been.
Big grin.
Like, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if
Uh,
anything, you are a role model for how to stay youthful as you age. It's amazing. You really do bring a lightness of spirit and color and vibrancy of life. Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I really have like the Burning Man and Burning Man community to thank for so many examples of people never stopping playing, never stopping their curiosity, never stopping their expression. Like the idea of, oh my gosh, she's too old to wear that. It's like that is to me that is like such a clear example of somebody being trapped in
mm,
default thinking. And luckily I have so many people in my life and community that shatter any of those types of statements or beliefs, and that allows for uh, nonstop play. I will say that there have been times in my life when I was a little bit in Peter Pan syndrome and was resistant to healthy aspects of growing up. So I think that the goal is to retain your child tendencies while you also grow into your wisdom and maturity. I'm trying.
Hmm. Balance.
I've got
Yeah.
a maybe it's deceptively easy question for you guys, but we'll see. If you have to live in a country besides the United States and you couldn't leave, you had to stay there for the remainder of your days, which country would you choose?
Mm.
Uh, oh my goodness.
So,
That's tricky. It's relatively easy. I don't know.
yeah.
That's a really tricky one.
Yeah, it can be tricky. For me, I mean, just going with those, there's so many countries I would like to visit, and maybe the right answer would be a country I haven't visited yet. But sticking with the ones that I've been to, for me, it's narrowed down between, I'd say, Thailand and Italy. Um, Two very different countries, but both fantastic in my experience in very similar ways. I might probably go with Thailand just because being tropical um, for the remainder of my days sounds pretty good. Sounds
Mm.
pretty yummy. Um, but yeah, maybe Thailand for me.
I really love New Zealand. Like I could definitely just enjoy New Zealand, but considering the extended part of that question that you could never leave, that would be a little hard because then I wouldn't be able to see a lot of the people that I love dearly that live all over the world because it's quite far.
Mm,
But visiting New Zealand, one of my favorite places on the planet, such a special, special place. I
yeah.
have some dear soul family there as well.
Mm,
Um, But yeah, I think Portugal seems to be pretty nice. I'd love to live there. I know some people there too that are just really thriving and enjoying that beautiful land there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's not a tropical place. I've yet to find the weather, the environment that is someplace that I would like to live forever, including where I live now. So I will start my first country tour as soon as possible, and then I will move there forever and never come back.
Ah, right.
I
Well,
don't like that part of the question.
I know, I don't either. I know. I'm like, I want to stay with my people. Well, I have a question that might be sort of connected. I had written this one down. This one's for you, Halcyon, specifically. And I'll give some context. I feel deeply inspired by the way that you share yourself so publicly. You have for a very long time. You shared on our podcast about the journey that you've been on, being on like, some of the first reality TV shows and, just really being so publicly seen. And, these days you're doing everyday love mornings, you're on all the time, you're sharing so much of yourself. One of the things that I was so curious about is have you ever done a digital detox? And if so, how long did you go? And anything else that you can share on the practice of putting yourself out there so fully?
Mm. I mean, I haven't really done a legitimate detox. In when I got sober from intoxicants about a year and a half ago and did a whole bunch of deep looking at my identity, and realizing how much of my identity is tied into publicly sharing, I've been questioning, how healthy and how much is this a part of who I want to be? Because as I dug in deep, there's an aspect of the sharing that is looking and needing feedback, needing people to say, "We like you, we like you." Um, and so I've been in deep inquiry as to, is this a healthy expression, and is this what I want to continue doing? But there's also a part of it for me that really feels like it's part of my dharma. Like I can remember my early days in the internet sharing a story that was very revealing and getting emails in 97, 98 from men who are like, "Oh my gosh, you're talking about something that no one has, I thought I was the only one." And I got this like full body electricity that I've only had like 3 times in my life, where I was just like, whoa, like, okay, something is happening. And I felt like I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to share as a way to connect with people, and hopefully have people witness my expression and vulnerability as a way to access their own maybe vocabulary that they haven't touched on, or feelings they haven't been able to express yet. And so that has been really a driving force, is that I feel confident enough that I can share, and I've done enough work in that, recognizing, and to so many teachers like Ram Dass and Byron Katie and Alan Watts, and just like, if you are truly being real and true, you are free. Like, there, you are invincible. So I feel pretty, if I can really access that, I feel uh, invulnerable. Um, and so because of that, I really feel like a part of my purpose is to keep doing that, keep sharing it. So in this post uh, sobriety awareness of like, oh, there's an unhealthy aspect to this sharing, I'm trying to also share that. I'm sharing that process of like, okay, I'm having this doubt, I'm having this questioning of, is this a healthy process? Because even that falls under that category of my dharma of sharing the process. So it's a huge part of my thoughts and my purpose. And it is, I also recognize that a digital detox would probably be really, really good for me. Yeah.
Beautiful share. Thank you so much. I love getting to learn about your process.
And I'll say that there's an interesting part of it, which is that um, I live in a world where I am in relationships all the time, and no one else has consented to having all of their thoughts and their lives shared. And so it's an interesting process of, as I learn things from other people, or as every relationship is a classroom, how do I stay in integrity and also honor boundaries of other people? Or like if I tell a love story when I'm super high on all the bliss of it, is it fair to not share the struggles? And it gets a little complicated. And but I, very early on learned that you have every right to tell your story. That's it. Telling someone else's story is never okay. So I just mentioned a couple of my inspiring teachers. I'm wondering if you guys could list a few, whether they're people that you studied with, that you knew, or people that you've read that just are like your frequent guiding lights of wisdom teachers that you've had.
Yeah, I can just right offhand, kind of just scattershot off the top of my head. Malcolm X was very inspiring for the younger me, continues to be. I would say you can put to a slightly lesser extent, well, same but different. Martin Luther King Jr. also good. Maya Angelou, also excellent. Anais Nin has said some of the smartest things I've ever heard anyone say. She is phenomenal, especially when it comes to just the way she sees the world and when it comes to relationships and how deeply she feels. Frida Kahlo as well. Also very inspiring in numerous ways. Spiritually speaking, definitely had a moment with Eckhart Tolle right when I consider the time of my life where I was really starting to open up spiritually. Eckhart Tolle, Ram Dass, so many of the Hay House writers and speakers really had a lot to open my eyes to and kind of feel like they set me on the path. Yeah. I'll probably just leave it at there. It's probably I can go through another like 10 or 20 of them, but those are the ones that jump off the top of my mind for me.
Some good ones there. Beautiful. I would say that some of the people that have really impacted me and inspired me over the years and I've learned from, I would say Goenka is probably one of my first. He is the man responsible for bringing the Vipassana teachings to the West. I learned so much from his discourse. He's passed, so much of his teachings come through his video recordings, and so I've learned so much from his wisdom. Uh, Louise Hay, so she is definitely one of my mentors. She's also passed, but I remember reading her "You Can Heal Your Life" book many years ago, and she just has continued to inspire me with so much of her wisdom and insight. Wayne Dyer also. I got introduced to Wayne Dyer at a young age when my mom was reading Wayne Dyer, and so a lot of the good teachings from him. And then personally, I had some really, really incredible teachers at the school that I went to for massage therapy. So I would give some shout outs to some of those special teachers that really helped me to understand the body more efficiently. My anatomy teacher illuminated me so much. That was a really powerful teaching, and I'm so grateful for just so much that I learned that I could have never imagined going to massage therapy school would have taught me. Um, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Mhm.
Nice. I want to add two to my list, which is one is my grandfather, Grandpa Caleb. I got to spend a lot of time with him as a retired minister, and just really, I got to witness kind of walking the walk in a powerful way. And the other is a guy named Jacob Glass who does lectures on A Course in Miracles related things. And I went to see him every week for about 10 years. Either went to him or would listen to the lecture. And a very significant teacher for me, because he is someone who he's not especially ambitious. He he rents a room, he shows up and speaks his message, and he's very funny and and just not attached to becoming anything except being genuine. And I found that so liberating, because so many times I would see people, with impressive marketing and things, and often feeling like I should want to do that and be bigger. And to see someone who I really respect just showing up, just continually showing up and trusting that he will be of service in the way that, God wants him to. I just found that to be so profoundly impactful to me. So
Mm,
thank you, Jacob Glass.
yeah. Of course, there's more and more teachers that are popping. It's like when you're speaking of like
Maybe it's a
Jesus,
separate episode.
Buddha, Paramahansa Yogananda, Krishna, my mom. Yeah, that might be a
Yeah.
fun episode. Like we can talk about all our inspirations, the people that have sparked us on our path. Autumn Sky, the artist, so many
Mhm.
singers and songwriters that have just taught me so much.
I have a variety in the inspiration and question, which is, Betsy, can you explain how crystals make your life better?
Oh, sure. I'm holding one right now, actually.
Aha.
You guys can't quite see it, but it's this is called a celestial light. I keep crystals around me all the time. How do they make my life better? I don't know. I really don't. There is something just so mystical and uh, mysterious about the way in which crystals make a positive impact on my life. I've I remember when I first started collecting crystals, and I was like, why do I love these so much? Is it because they're pretty? Why do I just like having them around me? And I thought it was kind of weird. But then I actually just started noticing how good I feel around certain crystals and being attracted to certain ones, and then I started to actually learn about the differences between them and why certain ones do certain things. So I can start to speak a little bit more about how now I've used them, and I do see um, selenite, for example, is a stone that's very clarifying and purifying. It cleanses and clears, has these striations in it that is known to move energy through it. So, as a body worker and a healer, I use selenite often to help with clearing energy from my system, first and foremost, and also helping, it helps my clients to be able to clear their own space as well. Um, Let's say that also sacred space. The crystals contribute to beautiful sacred spaces. They just really do. They bring a powerful energy. I can't say like enough about the impact of having crystals in a room, in a office, in a healing space, anywhere. Um, I mean, this is another episode too. I could talk about crystals all day long.
That's perfect.
I probably have too many
Thank
of
you.
them at this point. Yeah. Do you have crystals? I mean, besides the one that I gave you?
I do. I have, but I don't have quite the relationship that I witness in you. I like them around. I kind of, to me, it feels like having fresh flowers. But I don't like fresh cut flowers. I like live plants and crystals as, like, an environment. So it's a vague appreciation, but not like oh, I need to grab my selenite because I'm feeling blank.
Mm-hmm. I can feel that. I mean, maybe it's because I've also been doing healing work for a long time, that I'm a little bit more sensitive to energy and I can feel them a little more.
Sure.
Like I said many years ago, and I was like, why do I like these? I hadn't cultivated the subtle awareness practices that I have now. Hmm.
Yeah. I remember the very first crystal I ever got was gifted to me by a little girl at the Joshua Tree Music Festival. She just came up out of nowhere with this smoky quartz that was big in her tiny hands, but she just ran up out of nowhere and she's like, "You're supposed to have this." And I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, thank you." And as soon as she handed it to me, like I could feel like this like vibrating in my I had no like this is my very first experience with crystals and even awareness of like crystals. And I could just feel this thing vibrating in my hand that I thought for a second that there was a battery in it or something. I'm like, what is this thing she gave me? I'm like, oh, it's just a straight up crystal. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I've had this thing ever since, but I felt like I've lost this thing a couple times where I just gave it up for being lost and had moved my home, and then it would appear like underneath something,
Mm-hmm.
like it would have fallen out of something, I guess, but it was like this just weird. This crystal has a way of reappearing and disappearing and reappearing and disappearing. And yeah, I still got it. It's like when I've got it several crystals now, that's definitely one that it's still one of my favorites.
It like popped into other dimensions and then came back. I've had that
Yeah,
same experience with certain crystals. Like, whatever happened to that one crystal? And then it's gone for years and then comes back.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Apparently they
crystals,
do that.
they're wonderfully mysterious. You know, like that question around how they work is like, I really don't know. But they're doing something. You know, it's really amazing. We had someone come and speak on the Community Speaker Series stage some years ago who is a master crystal intuitive and collector, and his name is Phil. He has a crystal shop and he speaks to the science of crystals and how they work. So there's definitely science behind it too. Hmm. Good
So,
question. Yes. All right. Well, so I feel like we could probably start to wrap it up here. We probably could just like get together and just keep asking each other questions. This is a really fun way to get to know each other. A little spark for those of you out there. If you are listening, ask each other questions. Ask your friends questions to inquire deeper. It's so powerful to create a space to understand each other and be curious about each other, about where we've come from, what we've experienced, what we believe in, especially if it's about certain things like that we're talking about here today that don't create division. Right. There's a lot of questions we can inquire with each other these days. I'm glad we didn't talk about politics or religion or anything that might be potentially triggering. There's a lot of those kind of conversations, but when we want to create deeper connection with people, then we get to choose mindfully on the questions that we ask. And on that note, we are interested in our listeners' curiosity. So if you all out there have any questions for us, we would love to receive some of your inquiries. And if we receive enough messages and enough questions, then we're going to go public and do an episode that is Ask Us Anything. So feel free to give us a little shout out and either the email or on our Instagram or personally, if you know us, feel free to send out a little question for us, something you'd like to know, something you'd like to hear us talk about. Huh?
So
So, any closing sparks, closing questions percolating?
I got so many more questions, but I'll hold on to them. But my clothing spark is kind of a follow up to what you're talking about of asking questions of friends in social situations, in that it is the easiest and best way to be liked, is to, if you are in a social situation, if you have any social anxiety, the fastest way to connect with someone and to remove any disconnection is to start asking them questions. Everybody's favorite topic is themselves. You can, I just had an experience about a month ago at a party where a woman walked up to me, started talking to me, and I just nodded for about 20 minutes. And afterwards, she goes, I knew we were going to be good friends, and then walked away. I'm like, I didn't say a word, but but just kind of kept kind of nodding. And so you can, if you are in any situation, just questions about someone's past, what they care about, who their powerful teachers. A lot of the questions that we talked about here with our close friends are great ways to go from how's the weather to potentially having a real connection with somebody.
Yes, it really is so meaningful. I've also felt the opposite. You know, I have had relationships with certain people that, like, if there's never a question in my direction, then I start to carry a belief that they really don't care about me. They don't really care what's going on in my life. There's just very little interest. And then I start to actually recognize that the relationship is out of balance. And I prefer to spend time with people that have a balance, right? Where I'm curious about who they are and they're curious about me and we're curious about each other's lives. It is so important, I believe, to have harmony in relationships, that we inquire and let each other know that we care what's happening for each other. It's very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, kind of tying both those together is, yeah, is the notion of staying curious, whether it's about, your friends or strangers, the world around us. Like, I wonder what that's like. Even when I'm driving around town, I just moved to a new neighborhood for me, new to me, and still learning it. But there's times where I'm going home and I know how to go home. I'm like, oh, but I wonder what's down that street. And I'll just go down these streets and I'm fine. And I'll find these like cool little like spots or neighborhoods. And there was a moment where I was up in San Luis Obispo a couple weeks ago, and was on my way to a coffee shop where I knew it was, but then I saw that they had a different location. I driving by, I'm like, oh, but there's another location there. Oh, I wonder what that one's like. And so I just pulled into that one and ran into an old friend that I hadn't seen in like 10 plus years there. And it's like, and now we've cultivated things. Now I've got now we've reconnected and I've got a place to stay in San Luis Obispo, as opposed to like having to stay at a hotel every time I go up there. So that's so staying curious is has its benefits that are far beyond what we might expect. So yeah, stay curious, people.
I got one more. I got one more spark I have to share, which is that like one of my mantras is there's nothing more beautiful than a human being revealing their truth. And that if you can go into your inquiry questions with that mentality, and sometimes you need to lead or give an example of a vulnerable share, but if you can respond to someone and really acknowledge that if someone is telling you anything truthful about who they are giving you treasure. And if you can listen from that place and people can feel that, it is a powerful place for people to grow. And when that's what you want your friendships and your community to be, a place where like we trust each other and we acknowledge that there is no boasting, there is no facade that is going to be anywhere near as beautiful as your truth. So thank you both for sharing your truth with all of us.
Oh, yes. Thank you for being a catalyst and such an inspiration for getting this out there. And thank you all out there for listening, for letting us know that you're listening. It's been really wonderful to have some great conversations with many of you. Thank you, Kyra Elise, especially for giving us some reviews and feedback. Thank you, Tanya Raven, Jennifer Taylor, just giving some shout outs to some of our amazing listeners. It's really fuel for our fire. So we look forward to continuing these conversations and following the inspiration of evolution. So, a little seed to plant for those of you who have listened to this whole episode, knowing that we are going to start welcoming more people onto our show very soon. We're excited to expand this conversation and see what other kind of sparks start to come through from talking to some of you out there. So, that is to come. But for now, I think we can close it out as a little reminder for anyone out there that wants to learn more about our work. You can find me on poweraffirmation.com. You can find me on my Instagram, BETSY FINKLEHOO. You can learn more about the work that I do with my clients one-on-one and the group work that I do. And also, as Janus mentioned in the beginning, the Power Affirmation cards and journal.
Awesome. And you can find my morning broadcasts and gratitude circles and t-shirts and goodies at lifestudent.com. And if you are a burner or no burners, I have a new Instagram account called Burner Prep. So hopefully get you all excited about the upcoming extravaganza.
Ooh, I have some stuff I want to give you for that you can share with people. I love
Great.
Burner Prep.
All right. And you can find me. I've got a nutritional supplement company called NuWorld Nutritionals with NuWorld Nutritionals. We have a nootropic stack that is good for all things neurological. It's good for the brain, helps with your mood, helps with your memory, learning, helps alleviate symptoms of anxiety, depression, ADHD, PTSD. It's anything for your brain. It is a super helpful to get you back on track or to keep you on track. So NuWorldNutritionals.com, you can use the code SPARKED for 10% off of all of our products. So, and speaking of my new Power Affirmation deck, which I enjoy every day, Betsy, could you send us off with a solid affirmation for our day?
Yes. A good reminder for us to focus our thoughts in a direction that we so choose, rather than letting the monkey mind just keep going, going, going. The affirmation today that is alive is, I am willing to stay curious. 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 I allow curiosity to guide my focus, my actions, my life. I am curiously exploring my truth. I am curiously exploring my relationships. I am continuously staying curious to the unfolding of life. Thank you all for listening. Stay sparked, people.
Find us on Instagram at Stay Sparked and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Thanks so much for helping us spread these sparks.